Today I'll show you how to take any stuffed animal and turn them into an animated puppet. It takes stuffed animals to an entirely different level. It's easy, it's fast, it's cheap, and the great thing about this approach is that I can show you how to reverse it if for some reason you don't want the stuffed animal to be a puppet anymore. Interested? Here we go! The materials is real simple, it's real easy, and it's readily available. You need some monofilament fishing wire, this is 10-pound test, some electrical tape, some sort of dowel, and if you don't have any dowels, you can use pencils. They work really well. Some rubber bands, and a couple stuffed animals. You could make a whole group of these guys and just have a ball of fun with it. Some sort of measuring device and a marking device. And I'm using a saw and a pair of scissors. Also, you'll need some sort of needle, and I use this needle guide to help thread the needle. If you do any kind of repair work at home, this is a great set, and I'll post it down below. So the first thing we need to do is come up with a stuffed animal. Now, the reason why I like this guy is because he's got a big floppy tail. And this is just 2 lines, so he can sit down and he can move his tail around. I wanted some puppets for another video that I'm making outdoors involving animals, and I know animals weren't going to cooperate, so I came up with this idea, and I just didn't want to hold them. I wanted to make them look like they were kind of hanging out on their own. This one's a great puppet because it's got 2 big floppy wings. It's got a nice tail and a head, and you can kind of move it around to make it fly. This is just a single puppet with 2 strings, and his bushy tail is like a big part of it. I'm thinking about maybe adding a couple little arm things here, so we'll see how that turns out. You want a stuffed animal that has kind of a big tail so that you can balance out the head and you can flap his wings. This guy, you could make a 1-string puppet and he can just kind of dance around. He doesn't have much of a tail to go with, so that would be a bit challenging. And his arms are a little small and they're forward, because you're going to put the string right around the center of the head. So he's not such a good candidate. This teddy bear, though, is great. Now, you could animate or you could put strings on the feet, but I don't think it's necessary. You can just stand him up that way and move him back and forth, and it looks like his feet are on strings, and then you've got his arms and his head. So you can balance him out pretty good just with here with a 3-string or maybe a 4-string with his tail. So that's a pretty good option. So when you got a 4-string, you want to have something on the head, something on the tail to balance it out. And you want to kind of find a natural pivot point, like I said. You can kind of almost get him to fly around just by tilting his head up and down. Great thing about the rubber bands is that you can move him forward or backwards. So lots of options you can build in pretty easy. Let's go to a top-down shot and I'll show you some details on how to put these guys together. When you're threading the monofilament, you take the needle helper, you run it through there, and then just run it through the needle. Now you want to have a needle that has a fairly big eye on it so that you can run that through. And then just give it a fairly long tail. And you want to, as little as possible to get through. And then you just pull it through like that. And you can see, then take the needle out. And I leave a fairly good tail there, because it's hard to see. Put him down here. And then just nice and tight like that. And then I just take and clip off the line. Make sure you don't cut this one off. So you can actually hold it down like that. And then just clip off this line here as flush as you can so that you can't see the thread. Now you want to leave a fairly good thread if you're going to make a puppet. So I usually take right around 30 inches, because you're going to want to tie it off onto the stick here. So leave a real good length of this monofilament, cut it off, and that's his first paw. You got to keep your line straight. This guy here, so you can kind of find his paw, run it through, make sure it's tight enough, and then just pull it through like that. Got the tail. Monofilament's relatively cheap. You can get all these supplies for a couple bucks, and you could do a whole wave of puppets. All right, so I have my original 2 strings here. I've got this string that goes off to this side, and then this guy is over here. So for the bird, I actually put the rubber band on there. There's two of them. I just kind of crossed them up and down and put them in place, and as you can see, it slides fairly easy. But I'm going to try something different with the squirrel. I'm going to use this rubber coated wire. The reason why I wanted the wire instead of the rubber band is because I'm going to try to do something where this is separate from this. To avoid confusion, take a little pause here, and those are going to be in black tape, and his tail and head are going to be in red tape. And you can actually put a T here if you want for his tail, and an H here if you want for his head. So that just further helps you out. All right, and what I did is I just took a saw. You can use any kind of tool to just give you a little groove. It kind of looks like a tinker toy. And that's what you're going to put your monofilament in before you tape it off. I tried a whole bunch of different ways, and this just seemed to be the easiest, fastest, cheapest way to do so. When you're trying to figure out how big to make the stick, you want it maybe just slightly bigger than where your connectors are. So here's his little monofilament connectors. So I want the stick to be a little longer than that. So the stick is a little over 6 inches long, and that's about what it is here. So then we can move him back and forth like that. So we got about 19 inches from the position that I've tied it off on his head to the stick, and then another 19 inches there, plus about 2 or 3 inches worth of wrapping around before I taped it off. Now on his arms, 4 or 5 inches from his tie off on the head, and I want to have a good bit of motion there, so I'm going to give him a little extra room. So this monofilament here is about 30 inches long, and that's going to give me plenty of play to tie off to the stick. You want to have your tape for your stick ready to go. Got it in the slot. Going to wrap it on the front, helps lock it in, and then I'm going to wrap it around the back, and that's real tight. You can cut off the extra if you want, or you can just leave it on so you can make some further adjustments. And then I'm just going to take the tape, and I want the string to come right out the end there, and then just wrap it around. Hey there, how's it going? And I'll do that to the other side, and then I'll show you what the final version looks like. The arm thing's on, and I'm just moving it back and forth. I'm using 2 hands to manipulate him, whereas with the bird, I'm using just 1 hand and moving it back and forth. So it depends on what you want to do with your puppet. This rubber band cross version works great for the bird because he can be controlled easily with 1 hand. Bring him back here. You can soar to the side. These are a lot of fun. I'm going to make a whole bunch of them. I didn't think I'd like the pause that much, but boy, it really adds a lot. Hi, how's it going? And these are about 19-20 inches long, these strings off the floor. So the difference between where the stick is and the top here, so another 6 inches for this guy. I like it about that height because then you can walk him on the floor, you can get him on a tabletop, and you're really not too high or too low. Just seems to be about the right amount. Because I want to have the ability to move him back and forth and maybe do manipulating with 2 hands or just do it with 1, and you can just tighten it off like this. When you want to disconnect it, it's just that quick. And you could just kind of put it back here if you wanted to, just when you want to put it together and see 2-handed version, you put it together with a 1-handed version. Just a lot of fun. Thumbs up and comments always appreciated. So what do you think? It's really an inexpensive build. A couple bucks and a stuffed animal, and you've just got all sorts of crazy fun ahead of you. If you're interested in toy designs, home repairs, designs of all kinds, I even do cosplay, props, and costumes. Check out my channel and please subscribe, because you never know, hi there, what you're gonna see.